You're listening to the Being Stellar podcast, the podcast for modern leaders and entrepreneurs who are tired of hustle culture and ready to invite more ease and more prosperity into their lives. I'm your host, Deborah Stellingwerff, master teacher and coach, and I am obsessed with helping you avoid burnout while you create a sustainable lifestyle full of possibility and profit on your terms. On the show, you'll hear inspiring stories of possibility, and you'll get empowering strategies and insights from me to support you in creating your stellar life. Well, hello there, stellar friends, and welcome back to the Being Stellar podcast. Today, let's talk about productivity, specifically why you should stop trying to be more productive. I know, sounds counterintuitive, but hear me out. See, often when clients come to me, they come with the request for help to be more productive. They want to get more done. They just want to be more productive and feeling that they're not getting enough done. Now, here's what I tell them. This is what I'm going to tell you. Stop trying to be more productive. You see, productivity is about activity, not about being. So if you actually want to get better results, which is where I would encourage you to focus rather than on being more busy or more productive, then you want to focus on these three things. First, getting really, really clear on what you want. When you're focused on being productive, it's about just being busier. When we focus on what we really, really want, then we get clarity about what to prioritize, what's important, and what needs to be trimmed off your schedule. So I find often the people who I work with, high-performing professionals in real estate and finance and even some coaches, they tend to be overly busy because we get caught up in hustle culture and saying yes to everything all the time, rather than being really, really clear on what they want and being very selective about what they say yes to so that they can focus on getting results rather than on being busy. So getting really clear on what you want and why you want it, and making a practice of revisiting that goal every single day. I do this in my meditation every single morning. I focus on several things in my meditation process, which I've talked about in another podcast, so I'm not going to go into all of that here. But the one thing I do at a certain point in my meditation is that I focus on what is that bigger goal that I want to achieve. And I literally remind myself when I hit this corner, I go through these 4 points in my meditation, and 5 actually. And there's 4 points and then there's a center. And in one of my points, I focus on what I want to create and where I want to be of service. And right now, my focus is that I want to be of service to 1,000 people to help them create aligned and prosperous lives. Now, I have a few different metrics of how I'm measuring that. I'll talk about that another time. But I focus on that every morning, that I want to be of service to 1,000 people, and I want to do it with ease and grace. I don't want to do it with more productivity. I don't want to do it with more busyness or rushing or hustling for approval or hustling to get things done or the latest fad. I want to do it with ease and grace. That is the aligned and prosperous way to create an impact and get paid for it with a sense of spaciousness and ease. Okay. And I think I've coined a word. I'm not sure if I coined it or not, but I talk about, rather than it being easy, to let it be easeful. I work hard. I'm not afraid of hard work. I show up and I do my part, and I give into my business 110%, and I still have ease and spaciousness because there's more here going on than me just trying to be productive. So I'm really clear what I want, and I revisit that morning and night. So once you're really clear on what you want, it will help you to prioritize and set really clear intentions about what matters most to you, so you won't feel this urge or this need to be productive. The next thing you want to do after you've determined what it is you want is to focus on consistency. Right? Because it's consistency that gives us results over time, right? Productivity is a result of consistent action taken over time. Because you think about what productivity is, it's like you want to actually produce. The root word of productivity is produce. And to produce something means to make something come into reality. So if you want to be more productive, you want to manifest or make real more things. So that's really the result. Productivity is the result of consistent action over time. So your second ingredient to being more productive after determining what you want is to take consistent action towards that. And I'm going to actually add something that wasn't in my notes here. Consistent, meaningful, intentional action over time. It's so easy for us to just like throw a bunch of stuff at the wall that I'm just like throw this and see if it sticks and throw that and see if it sticks. And we often don't commit to consistent action long enough for us to see if that thing's really working because we're busy with the next shiny object before we've actually been consistent enough with something to see, does this work or not work? You've all seen, I hope you will have all seen it. I mean, it's been around for years, is this illustration of someone digging a tunnel towards a diamond mine and giving up inches before striking the diamonds or the gold, whatever the image might be, and taking their chisel and walking away because they gave up right before they were about to break through. Now, I'm not saying sometimes you do have to stop because something's just not working. But a lot of times we're not consistent with our action and we say, well, I want to be more productive. And yet we're not being consistent with our action. So that's number 2. Number 3, once you've got clear on what you want and you have the consistency of intentional action dialed in, the third thing you're going to want to learn to do is to keep your word to yourself. Yes, we are back here again. You've heard me say it a few times. If you've been with the podcast for a while, this is really what it's all about. When I was in a very different energetic state than I am now, I had a hard time keeping my word to myself. I would make plans and then I would overbook myself. I was saying yes to too many things. And so I was constantly breaking my word to myself because I had no sense of how long things took to do. And I still have that sometimes. It's my edge. It's always going to be my edge. I'm always going to have to pay attention to that I can tend to overestimate how much I can do or underestimate how much time it's going to take to do it, right? I've talked about this before. We all have a planner and a doer inside of us. Our planner is like, yeah, I can do all the things and I can get it all done in like an hour. And our doer is like, I'm not doing that, right? It's not enough time to do that thing or participate in that. So, and it becomes problematic because our planner says, yes, we're going to do it. And our doer gets there in the moment and says, I'm not doing that. Either because you don't have time or you don't have desire. Maybe your decision to do this action isn't linked strongly enough to your why, which is what I mentioned in point number 1, getting really clear on why you're doing something so that it's just a no-brainer. All right. When I spend time every morning and every night saying I am going to be of service to 1,000 people and help them create aligned and prosperous lives, it's become so incredibly easy for me to do all the things that I need to do to make that happen because I'm just telling myself this is what we're doing. And my brain's like, okay, let's do it. When I'm not connected to my why, it becomes a little more challenging to do the task. So if you're wanting to build something in your business or in your relationships or anywhere else in your life, if you're not connected to the why of you're taking the action, then it's going to be harder to take that action. Okay. So, and the key is like, you won't be able to keep your word to yourself that you're going to do that thing. So every time you say, I'm going to do this, I don't know, example that I always use, sorry if you've heard it before, is cleaning out my office or cleaning, actually specifically it was the bookshelf in my office. This was a real turning point for me, was this bookshelf that literally for months and months and months, I wanted to clean this bookshelf and I kept putting it off because there was more important things. The groceries had to be bought, laundry had to be done, something more fun. And when I realized that I kept breaking my promise to myself, that I didn't trust myself to actually do things because I wasn't doing what I said I was going to do. And so I shifted then, and there's a podcast episode much earlier on in the series where it's called Ditch Your To-Do List, where I talk about this in more depth, that nothing goes in my calendar unless it's sacred, right? If it goes in my calendar, it's like it's a promise to future me that I'm doing it. So I check in with myself. Am I going to actually do that? So I discovered this and I decided, well, I'm going to try this. I'm going to put it in the calendar, and that's a promise to myself. I'm going to have a meeting with myself to clean this bookshelf. And I checked in with future self, the doer, right? Who's going to have to do the task, and decided, yep, we agree we're going to do this. And let's keep our promise to ourselves. So I went and I did this bookshelf. And the funny thing about this is like this bookshelf that took me 5 months to clean probably took me 20 minutes to straighten out. And it bugged me for 5 months. And what it didn't just bug me for 5 months. It was 5 months of me breaking my promise to myself. And that had a much bigger impact on my brain than the fact that the bookshelf was a bit messy. Because what it did is it told my brain, when we make plans, we don't really mean it. We don't really have to follow through. And at another level, that's teaching me that I don't trust myself, that I can't trust myself to keep my word. And that becomes really problematic because when you're wanting to be more productive and yet you can't keep your promises to yourself, do you see how the cycle happens? That you're not able to be productive. You're not able to get the results you want because you don't trust yourself to actually take the necessary intentional action that's going to get you the results, that's going to make you feel more productive. So really, this isn't about being more productive. If you're feeling like you're not getting the results you want, it's not about you being more productive. It's about you getting really clear what you want and focusing on the intentional, consistent action and practicing keeping your word to yourself. When you start keeping your word to yourself, that's when you start becoming more consistent. And when you start becoming more consistent, that's when you get the results you want. When you say you want productivity, what you're really wanting is better results. Okay. So if you have questions or comments or ideas about this, love to hear it. I'd love to hear your perspective on what helps you to be more productive, what your takeaway is maybe from something I shared today. I'd love to hear that from you. And in the meantime, stop trying to be more productive and get out there and be more consistent and more trustworthy to yourself when you put something in the calendar. And if you want my support with that, there are several ways that you can work with me, and you can pop on over my website and check those out at deborahstellingwerff.com. And I would love to see you in one of the programs because that's exactly the kind of thing that we work on, is changing our mindset about what it means to be productive and get results and connect you to the bigger picture. All right, make a wonderful day, and I will see you again really, really soon. Bye for now.